Welcome, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us today. My guest this month is Lucinda Hanover. She is the founder of Lumery. She is its CEO, and the company consults around the world on a variety of business issues, but is focused primarily with regards to empowering women in the business world today. She is a mother, a wife, a grandmother, and she is the successor for Her Holiness Saima. And it is my deep pleasure again to welcome Lucinda on today's topic, which is dignity. Hello, Lucinda.
Hi, Diane. How are you?
Doing great. How about you?
Very good.
Wonderful.
Stay in Denver, Colorado.
Well, it's great to see you as always, Lucinda. And would you like to get us started by just starting off with a little centering meditation?
Sure, absolutely. So whatever you're doing, if you could put that aside, put your phone aside, put your computer aside, anything that you're working on, anything you're thinking about, and adjust yourself to be in a relaxed position. The meditation is really going to be able to greater embodied dignity at the end of our interview. So we'll start with the meditation. So if you please close your eyes. And let's take an easy breath together. Inhale and exhale. And relax all of your muscles. Allow any thoughts to drift away. Uncross your arms and legs. And become aware of your body. And we're going to begin at the root chakra, which is at the base of your spine. And let's take a deep breath together as if this chakra was alive, because it is. It's an energy center. And imagine that we can breathe life into not only this chakra, but the remaining chakras. So let's take a breath together and imagine that it's the chakra itself breathing. So take a deep breath in and gently out. Now moving to the sacral chakra below the belly button. Another breath in. And slowly out. Now moving to the solar plexus, middle of your tummy. Take a deep breath in, slowly. And another breath out. Now moving to the heart chakra, as if your heart were breathing. Take a breath in the whole energy of the heart space. Now exhale. Let's move to the throat chakra. Inhale. And exhale. And moving to the Ajna chakra between your eyebrows. Inhale. And exhale. Now the crown chakra at the top of the head. Inhale. And exhale. And on the next breath, breathing throughout all the chakras. Inhale. And exhale. Now let's relax in silence. Gently open your eyes. Okay, I think we're here, Diane.
Thank you so much, Lucinda.
You're
That was
welcome.
great.
You're welcome.
So let's begin. Can you help us define and understand what dignity is?
Wow, that's a big word. When you ask me if we could talk on dignity, it's, for me, it is fundamental. It's simply fundamental to being human and being God in human form. Dignity meaning fundamental rights. Dignity as in the honor and respect of each and every person, and the dignity of humanity, the dignity of one another, the dignity, the deep respect we have for one another.
That is so beautiful,
Yeah.
Lucinda.
And the United Nations did a Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And it's interesting because it says all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights.
I love that.
Universal.
Eleanor Roosevelt, right? Drafted that.
Yeah, now it's a Declaration of Human Rights.
Right.
Across everything, doesn't matter who you are, what you are, where you're born, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, when you think about it, what a fundamental of importance that is when we talk about trying to have a peaceful world.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, Lucinda, how do you experience dignity in your body? What does that feel like as an embodiment?
Well, dignity begins with self-respect. And as we know, that when you respect yourself, then you respect others. And it begins with respecting your body. If you ask, how does it feel? It begins by the deep self-respect we have. You think about, in the normal course of a day, how much time and energy we might, if you think about the time we spend doubting ourselves, or the time we spend questioning ourselves, or wondering if we should do the right thing, or what we ought to do, or think about what other people think we ought to be and do, and all of that, honoring all of that. I don't like to use the word instead of, but dignity is much more foundational than that. It starts with a deep self-respect of your own inner knowing, your own inner godliness, your own inner divinity. So when you say embody it as in your body, it's respect at the core, respecting this physical vehicle that we live in. It's also respecting our inner knowing. It's respecting who we are. I think to Mary Magdalena, because this is part of this series that you're doing with Mary Magdalena, that the dignity and the knowingness that she had to tap into over and over and over again to become not only who she was, but afterwards who she's becoming today. And in the world, being known as today in the world. And how she must have honored herself, and then being the one who witnessed the resurrection, and knowing what happens when we leave the body, and then being able to have an experience of that, and knowing that is who we are fundamentally, and that is what we're honoring. When I say self-respect and dignity, it all begins there. No one can give you dignity. Since you asked me to speak on this topic, Diane, the Whitney Houston song, "The Greatest Love."
Yes.
it's been ringing in my head, and I actually played it this morning because I wanted to hear what the actual words were. And it's, she says, the greatest love of all is happening inside of me. And you can take away everything, but you can't take away my dignity. You can't take away this greatest love I have inside of me. And it includes, I imagine, it includes herself. It includes this love of God deep inside of her that gives her such dignity that it doesn't matter what happens around. She's not waiting for anybody else to be respectful to her. She's already respectful to herself.
It really is foundational, isn't it, Lucinda?
It is completely foundational.
And expand on that, if you would, about how it is that you see dignity at the core of a spiritual practice.
It is at the core. It is at the core. Master said the kingdom of heaven is within. Mm. And it's honoring that. It's having dignity in that. And as you mentioned at the beginning, I work with women all around the world. And as women, if you think about our history and you think about how we've been disrespected and in some countries, in some situations, violated over the years as women. Some countries the last to eat, even though we're bearing the children. So if you think about how we've been dehumanized, we've been objectified over the years in many different ways, then as we look at women today, and we wonder, well, how come I don't have any self-respect? How come I doubt myself? How come I feel like I can't be heard? And think about all the territory that we've come so far already in the Western world, let's say. Not all, we're still working on it everywhere. But when you say, how is it fundamental, we are right now, I think, at the cusp of honoring women for the first time, maybe ever, in all areas. So with a deep respect, and it starts with the deep respect of ourselves. And I think anyone who's listening to this could check it out for themselves. How much time do they spend truly honoring and knowing who they are, and how much time you might spend in doubting, or how much time you spend in wondering what other people, how other people would like you to do it, or how to please other people, or how to, what can I do to quote unquote serve? But what we really are doing is, how do I get them to think I'm wonderful? How much time do we spend waiting until someone asks us, hoping to be discovered? Or goes way back.
Lucinda, as you say that, it just seems so clear to me that oftentimes as women, we focus on when will the world change, as opposed to when will we stand up in a place of dignity.
Yeah. And when do we, and honoring ourselves, and then, even standing up implies it's like we have to fight for something, and we don't have to. The fight is over. We've arrived. And now it's a matter of expression and using our voice and being at the table, being one of all of us, and giving ourselves that dignity. Yeah, and the rest, the outside world is a reflection of what's inside.
Lucinda, what would you suggest for all of us in order of practical things that we can do to really begin to embody and cultivate a deeper expression of dignity?
I thank you for asking that. I was in communication with Her Holiness Saima just a couple of days ago, and she was working with a group of us, and she said, every night before you go to bed, write down 3 qualities that you admire in yourself, or that you are aware of in yourself. And don't do anything after you've done that, and drift off to sleep. And so there's that. And then when you wake up in the morning, before you go to your computer or your phone or doing the first thing you do in the morning, write down. It's important to write down, not just think about, but write down 3 qualities that you love about yourself. So before you go to sleep and in the morning. Now, the exercise Ma gave us was a little different, but I think in terms of building dignity, and do that for at least 21 days, every day, until you begin to activate dignity within yourself, for yourself, to yourself, and become what you know is at the core. Really, all that other stuff is just an illusion. All of it, every bit of it. If it doesn't uplift you and empower you and give you a sense of deep joy, it's not you. It's just simple.
Mm. That is so lovely, Lucinda.
Mm-hmm.
And when you embody then and cultivate that sense of dignity, can you give us some practical examples of how that can change our life?
I would say just do it and see. And that I would do the practice at the core of, you said a great word, Diane, that nurturing dignity, nurturing the respecting of us as divinity, as who we are, and see what happens. You know, everyone who's listening to this will come up with a lot of practical examples of what that does. You know, for me, I've been doing this for a couple of days, and I'm beginning to see what I see in myself, I begin to see in others. You know, if I say, I'm open, and I begin to, and cultivating that in me, I see it in others. You know, we start to cultivate, or it's not a matter of cultivating, we lazily move to that which is not in the highest frequency when we're not conscious and making conscious choices. So when we are degrading ourselves or degrading another, that's also getting fostered in ourselves. So when you say practical, I think people will see that, but they, you know, test it out, see what happens. It's amazing. Because it went from me to, is this really in me, or am I just making this up? You know, is this quality really mine? And then I realized, maybe it's not a matter of that, it's already there. There are attributes, and Ma talks about attributes of people, and there's things we cultivate. So the beginning to cultivate dignity at a core level is fundamental.
And Lucinda, do you think that there's an infinite possibility when it comes to those divine qualities? As though it's not that you have dignity or not, but that it's something that you can continue to cultivate over time?
Yeah, cultivate and become aware of is another way of saying it. Become aware of it and cultivate it and give it energy so that it expands. That's an interesting question, because I think there are an infinite number, and we may not have words for all of it. You know, the English language, maybe some people are listening in a different language to this recording, that they may have others. You know, and the Spanish language has a lot more wonderful words to call that. And I imagine we can invent many more. But yes, I think it is infinite.
And so you spoke about Mary Magdalena a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of some examples, some specific stories about Mary where she really presented a deep embodiment of that dignity for us?
I always see Mary as, you know, as serving Jesus, serving Master. And, you know, it's hard to know what stories are true and what aren't true, Diane, back then. But what we've always thought, at least I always thought growing up, is that Mary was a lady of the evening and was hanging around Jesus. And now we know she was the disciple and the apostle of all apostles, and how she interacted. Imagine if that is how people could understand a woman in those days. You know, the other disciples were all men. And what's this woman doing with Jesus? And that's how they could understand her, rather than having the most devotion and the most service. And everything was about serving Jesus and serving Master, and thus serving God, serving self, serving all that we're about. So I would think in terms of an example of dignity, if you imagine Mary at the feet of Master, and that it didn't matter what anyone said. It didn't matter how many rocks were thrown at her. It didn't matter what they called her. It didn't matter what they thought of her. And we have to put ourselves back in that time as well. You know, so misunderstood. And the dignity is having that deep experience within each of us of our own sense of self and our own sense of who we are. That so goes beyond anything that anyone would say.
Well, and of course, Lucinda, you are an ordained interfaith minister.
Mm-hmm.
And so it means so much to me to hear you say those words.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it means to the world that now so many different denominations within Christianity, in particular the Catholic Church, have now come out and said not only was she a saint, but that she was a disciple? What do you think that means for women?
Yeah, and disciple of disciples. I think it's fantastic that we have a feast. A feast to celebrate it is amazing, and I think it goes along with where the consciousness is of the planet right now, and the consciousness of women. And it's not what it was a year ago. It's not what it was 2 years ago. And people are starting to wake up to what's to the dignity of women. You say about the different religions, because also dignity is fundamental in all religion. They talk about it from the get-go in every faith.
It really is at the heart of all the wisdom traditions, isn't it? And yet at times it seems like it's gotten lost.
Yeah. I mean, we're living in very interesting times.
Yes, we are.
We're living in interesting times where people are no longer tolerating that which is not of respect. You know, I was talking to Dianthus yesterday about what's happening in Israel and what's happening in politics in Israel. And then, you know, we know, I don't know when people are listening to this, but what's happening in Russia right now, and what's happening in our very own country in the United States as we speak, what's happening. And, you know, you can hear it as a fight for dignity and respect, because what's getting illuminated is the separation and the divisiveness and the division. That's what's getting illuminated right now, and that people are not tolerating that anymore. They're going, hey, wait a minute. So it looks like everything's getting much, much, much worse. You could pick a country. Pick a country. Pick
right.
Any country. And then you see that what the opportunity coming shortly is to bring forth this dignity, this respect for all, this inclusion of everyone, the respect for who one is as a human being. And we have basic, fundamental human rights.
And as you say that, Lucinda, it just seems so clear the role, the importance of dignity in resolving conflict and moving us forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And dignity, at the heart of dignity also is respect, respecting another for everything, respecting them because no one else is like us. Nobody. There's not another human being on the planet that's exactly like we are. There's differences, there's different points of view. It doesn't even matter if you have the same skin color or believe the same things. There's a fundamental respect. So, you ask, how can you embody this? There's that exercise that Saima had mentioned. And then there's also the practice of honoring one another in every circumstance.
Certainly will create a different world, Lucinda.
Yes, without question. Without question. I think it'll get done.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
That is so lovely.
Our 3 key points this month. Number 1, dignity is a fundamental human right. Number 2, dignity requires an honoring of the humanity in every human being. Number 3, dignity begins with self-respect. Our 3 journaling questions for the month. Number 1, reflect on how much time do you spend honoring yourself versus doubting yourself or attempting to please others. Number 2, how would embodying dignity change how you treat yourself and others? Number 3, think of a time when you took action from a place of dignity. What was that experience like in your body?
And Lucinda, would you lead us now in a meditation to ignite that dignity within each of us?
Yes. Is everybody ready? Okay, if you'd please close your eyes. Start with a deep breath. Another breath. And let's start as we refer to Master as the great I am. Whatever we put after the words I am that I am. I am light. I am love. I am a creator. I am clear with my intuition and sight. I am grateful. I am steadfast. I am devoted. I honor who I am. I am filled with the energy of Mary Magdalena. I invite her love, her presence, her devotion, her steadfastness. I invite the energy of Mary Magdalena to enter my heart. I vow to honor this love. I vow to honor this light. I own my own dignity. I fill my very being with dignity, deep respect. I am dignity. I am dignity itself. It doesn't matter what's happening around me. It doesn't matter what people think of me. It doesn't matter if I'm misunderstood. I own my very own dignity. I nurture dignity. I know the wellspring within me generates dignity. I honor who I am. I embrace my personality. I allow any past energy to move through me, dissipate and transmute. I nurture the very essence. I dance with the unseen, the legions of angels. I can feel myself becoming dignity itself. I bow in with great gratitude to Mary Magdalena. I honor her journey during her brief life, and now her legacy for thousands of years after. A legacy of knowing who she is and recognizing the divinity of an enlightened master and becoming that herself. And knowing what she knew, not what others thought. Softness, subtleness, and power all at once. The power of dignity. Uplifting that divine feminine in each of us. The dignity of the feminine, whether you're male or female. Uplifting the divine feminine and allowing that to gain strength. Honoring more dignity. Let's rest in dignity, nurture dignity, love dignity. I honor the divine in you and in me. Open the eyes.
Thank you, Lucinda.
You're most welcome.
Beautiful.
Most welcome. Diane, it's always a pleasure.
Oh, it is always such a great experience to be with you and hear your words of wisdom, Lucinda. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
You're welcome. We'll see you very soon.
And to all of you, thank you so very much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.